What is going on, everyone? This is Sarah coming at you from just outside Hartford, Connecticut. And today we're doing a different type of video today that I pulled out of left field. And this is a video I've been excited to do for a month and a half now. And we finally got the time to do it. So, as you can see, we have song lyrics written down. And as you can see, it's Talkin Baseball by Terry Cashman. And of course, I don't own the rights to the song. Terry Cashman owns the rights to the song. This song is actually very popular, and it's chock full of baseball references, specifically from the 50s to 1981. So I just wanted to discuss it. Full disclaimer here at the beginning too. I'm going to discuss each player. The players are in red. Some of them will get minimal discussion time because they're going to be getting their own player bios. One of the big ones, of course, is Jackie Robinson. I just want to put that out there. You'll notice like I mentioned very little about him here. Just because he's getting his own player bio at some point. Don't worry. If you notice the guy's abrupt and he's a bigger name, he's getting a player bio. But anyway, without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. And of course, I am not going to be singing, but I will read it. So the beginning of the song goes, the Whiz Kids had won it. So the Whiz Kids were a nickname of the early 1950s Philadelphia Phillies. And basically, the Phillies team was full of young players and bonus babies. Now, a bonus baby was somebody who was young and had signed there was like a limit for how big you can sign a young player to for a contract. And if you signed a young kid to a contract worth, more than X number, they had to be on your major league roster. And that was a bonus baby. So they were a really young team. And when they say won it, when he says won it, he means that they won the NL pennant in 1950. They did not win the World Series. And then the team kind of faltered from there on out, in part due to the owner's lack of wishing to, integrate the team. So, so then we get Bobby Thompson had done it. So Bobby Thompson was a 3-time All-Star outfielder who played in Major League Baseball from the 1946 season to the 1960 season. Now, what did he do? He hit the NL pennant winning home run in the NLCS as a member of the New York Giants versus their arch rival Brooklyn Dodgers. Now, this home run was huge. And it was really important, especially because you're playing your arch rival. The home run is called the shot heard around the world. So, it happened to be the first nationally televised game. So it was a very important day for him and everybody else. And it was just a big game. So, and Yogi read the comics all the while. Of course, Yogi being Yogi Berra. And Yogi Berra is a Hall of Famer. He's an 18-time All-Star catcher. He played in Major League Baseball from the 1946 season to the 1965 season, mostly as a New York Yankee. He also managed in Major League Baseball for over 900 games, spread out from the Yankees and the Mets. And he was just a known fan of reading comic books. Rock and roll was being born. Marijuana we would scorn. So basically, I'm not going to get into marijuana, but rock and roll was starting in the 1950s. So down in the corner, the national pastime went on trial. So basically, in the 1950s, there was an attempts to overturn Major League Baseball's exemption from antitrust lawsuits or laws. So basically, the Supreme Court had to hear cases about whether or not Major League Baseball was a trust. And Major League Baseball won. So now we get to the chorus, and you'll notice it's in blue. That's because up here, they repeat the chorus. I just didn't feel like writing it twice. So he goes, we're talking baseball. Kluszewski Campanella. Now, Kluszewski is a 4-time All-Star first baseman who played from 1947 to 1961, mostly as a member of the Cincinnati Reds. And the Reds retired his number. While Roy Campanella is a Hall of Famer, he was an 8-time All-Star catcher who played in the Negro Leagues from 1937 to 1942, and then in Major League Baseball from 1948 to 1957, exclusively as a member of the Brooklyn Dodgers. Now, he had to retire after a bad car crash that paralyzed him from the shoulders down during the 1957 season. So, yeah, but he was still a really good player. Talkin Baseball, the man and Bobby Fella. So the man is, of course, Stan Musial, and he was a Hall of Famer, 24-time All-Star as an outfielder first baseman, and he played in Major League Baseball from 1941 until 1963, excluding the 45 season in which he served in World War II. You'll notice that for a lot of players. And he was only a St. Louis Cardinal. Now, when he retired, he owned or shared 17 Major League Baseball records, 29 National League records, and 9 All-Star Game records. Pretty good player. And then Bobby Feller is a Hall of Famer, 8-time All-Star pitcher. He played in Major League Baseball from 1936 to 1956, excluding the 42 to 45 seasons. Now, he was actually the first player who enlisted to fight in World War II. So after, Pearl Harbor's attacked, he's the first guy who enlists. We will get to that in a little bit in our the history of series. But Bobby Feller only played for the Cleveland Indians, and he threw 3 no-hitters, and he led the American League in strikeouts 7 times, wins 6 times, and ERA once. Not bad for a guy who lost a chunk of his prime to fighting overseas, The Scooter, the Barber, and the Nuke. So the Scooter was the nickname of Phil Rizzuto, who's a Hall of Famer. He was a 5-time All-Star shortstop who played in Major League Baseball from 1941 to 1956, excluding the 43 to 53 seasons. Sorry, the 43 to 45 seasons, which of course he fought in World War II. He was exclusively a New York Yankee, and he was more of a modern day guy when it comes to how he played. He was if you want to call him a small ball shortstop, he had a good average, and he was an elite defensive player, but he didn't really have a lot of homers. He still hit homers, but he wasn't elite at it. The Barber was Sal Maglie, a 2-time All-Star pitcher who played in Major League Baseball in 1945, went to the Mexican League from 46 to 49, as he was banned from Major League Baseball because he went to the Mexican League for the 46 season, so they banned him for 3 years, and then he decided to stay there for the 49 season, and then he returned to Major League Baseball from 1950 to 1958. Now, why was he called the Barber? Because he was known for throwing pitches inside close to the hitter. And then the Nuke, of course, is Don Newcomb. He's a 4-time All-Star pitcher who played in the Negro Leagues from 1944 to 1945 and Major League Baseball from 1949 to 1951. Then he had to serve in Korea for 2 years from 52 and 53, and then he returned to Major League Baseball from 1954 to 1960. He started off his career strong, but he declined towards the end of his career, and he claimed alcoholism really killed his career. So, just an interesting guy again. Now, they knew him all from Boston to Dubuque. The movie Field of Dreams was supposed to take place in Boston, hypothetically, and they had it take place in Dubuque, Iowa. So that's where he gets Boston to Dubuque. You might be thinking, Boston, that's something. Dubuque, what the heck is that supposed to rhyme with Nuke and Duke? Yeah, kind of. And then he goes, especially Willie, Mickey, and the Duke. Now, the picture to the album, or to the song, is Willie, Mickey, and the Duke. So who are they? Well, basically, they were all Hall of Fame center fielders who played in the city of New York in the same time frame in the 1950s, which is why they're grouped together. So Willie is, of course, Willie Mays. He's a Hall of Famer, obviously, 24-time All-Star. He played in the Negro Leagues from 1948 to 1950, and then made the leap to Major League Baseball in the 1951 season and stayed there until 1973. He did not play in the 1953 season as he was serving in Korea. And he spent most of his career as a New York/San Francisco Giant. He was a 2-time NL MVP. Then we get to Mickey, of course, Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle is obviously a Hall of Famer, 20-time All-Star. He played in Major League Baseball from 1951 to 1968, exclusively as a Yankee, and he won 7 World Series. And then Duke is Duke Snider. He was a Hall of Famer again, obviously. 8-time All-Star center fielder who played in Major League Baseball from the 1947 season to the 1964 season, mostly as a Dodger. And he led the NL in homers once and RBIs once. You might be wondering, why is he a Hall of Famer? Because he had great defense and he was just a well-liked guy on and off the field. All right, that's the chorus, so we're going to jump back in here. And he goes, well, Casey was winning. Casey is, of course, Yankees manager, Stengel. He's a Hall of Famer. He did play in Major League Baseball from 1912 to 1925, but he's a Hall of Famer for his manager. As a manager, he was a manager for a bunch of different teams. He was a manager for the Dodgers for 3 years in the 30s. After he left the Dodgers, went to the Braves for 6, went to the Yankees for a whopping 12 seasons, and then he went to the Mets for 4. Now, Casey was winning because he managed the Yankees in 12 years to 7 World Series victories. So, pretty impressive. Then we get Hank Aaron was beginning. Of course, we know who Hank Aaron is. Hank Aaron's a Hall of Famer, 25-time All-Star outfielder who played in the Major League Baseball from the 1954 season to the 1976 season. Now, you might be saying that doesn't make sense. How can he make 25 All-Star games? There were a few years where they did 2 All-Star games in the season, and you can get elected to both. So that's why you'll see like a lot of these older players have like weird All-Star game stats like that. So Hank Aaron has 3 MLB records to date, which are career RBIs, career extra base hits, and career total bases. And he was selected to take part in the most All-Star games in history. That record will not be broken. He played in the most All-Star games as well at 24, but he's tied with that record with Willie Mays. So pretty cool though. Then we get one Robbie going out, one coming in. So one Robbie going out is Jackie Robinson. So Jackie Robinson's a Hall of Famer. He was a 6-time All-Star second baseman who played in the Negro Leagues in the 1945 season and then went to Major League Baseball from the 1947 season to the 1956 season. Obviously, he broke MLB's color barrier, and his number is retired by all teams. And we'll get to him. He gets his own player bow, don't you worry. Then the one Robbie coming in was Frank Robinson, who's a Hall of Famer, 14-time All-Star outfielder who played in Major League Baseball from the 1956 season to the 1976 season. And he actually coached in the league from 1977 to 2006, excluding like a chunk from the 91 to the 01 season. So he spent basically his life in baseball. 3 franchises, to tell you how relevant he is, have retired his number. So now Kiner and Midget Goodell. So Kiner is Ralph Kiner. He's a Hall of Famer. He was a 6-time All-Star outfielder, and he played baseball from 1946 to 1955. And he was known for his power. He led the National League in homers 7 times in his 10-year career. Now, Midget Goodell is Eddie Goodell. So he's an interesting story. He appeared in 1 game for 1 at-bat for the St. Louis Browns. And why is he relevant? Because he stood at 3 foot 7 inches. So he's the shortest guy ever to play in a game. He's obviously the lightest guy ever to play in a game. We'll get to him a little bit in the St. Louis Browns, Baltimore Orioles video, don't worry. But just an interesting thing. The Thumper and Mel Parnell. So the Thumper was Ted Williams, a Hall of Famer, obviously 19-time All-Star outfielder. He played from 1939 to 1942 and then had to serve overseas from 43 to 45. Returned in 1946 and played till 1960 exclusively as a Boston Red Sox. He was a 6-time AL batting champion and a 4-time AL home run champion. So pretty impressive, obviously. Thus his nickname, the Thumper. He could hit homers. Mel Parnell is a 2-time All-Star pitcher. He played from 1947 to 1956, again, exclusively as a Red Sox. And he had a solid 10-year career before an injury. He tore a muscle in his arm, and that all but ended his career. And Ike was the only one winning down in Washington. Ike is, of course, Dwight D. Eisenhower, and the Washington team at that time, the Washington Senators, stunk. So, and then we get back to the chorus. So, he repeats this. I don't want to do it for you guys, but this is what he repeats. And then we go back here. So he goes, "Now my old friend, the Bachelor, well, he swore he was the Oklahoma Kid." So the Bachelor is just one of his friends in real life. Oklahoma Kid was a nickname for Mickey Mantle, as he was born in Oklahoma. And Cookie played hooky to go to see the Duke. So Cookie, again, one of his friends. And the Duke, of course, is Duke Snider. And me, I always loved Willie Mays. Self-explanatory. Those were the days. Well, now it's the 80s, and Brett is the greatest. Brett is George Brett, a Hall of Famer, a 13-time All-Star third baseman. He played from 1973 to 1993 exclusively as a member of the Kansas City Royals, and he was a dominant hitter. He was the 3-time AL batting champion. Bobby Bonds can play for everyone. So Bobby Bonds was a 3-time All-Star outfielder. Now, what's interesting for him is he actually played for 8 different teams in his career, which spanned from the 1968 season to the 1981 season. But from 1974 to 1981, he played for all 8 teams. So thus he played for 8 teams in 8 seasons, which is where Bobby Bonds can play for everyone. Rose is at the vet. So Pete Rose, 17-time All-Star infielder who played from 1963 to 1986 and managed baseball for the Cincinnati Reds from 1984 to 1989. He is Major League Baseball's all-time hit leader. Don't worry, he will get his own player bio. And why is it he's at the vet? Because he went from the Cincinnati Reds to the Philadelphia Phillies. He signed the largest free agent contract at that time, which is like $1 million, which just shows you how insane it is. And the Phillies at that point played at the vet, at Veterans Stadium. And Rusty again is a Met. Now, that is a reference to Rusty Staub, a 6-time All-Star outfielder who played from 1963 to 1985. Now, Rusty had been traded once by the Mets, and then he returned to the team, thus Rusty again is a Met. And the great Alexander is pitching again in Washington. Now, this is a dual reference, and this has to do with Grover Cleveland Alexander, thus the Alexander. So Grover Cleveland Alexander is a Hall of Famer. He did not play in an All-Star game, as the All-Star game was not invented when he played, because he played from the 1911 season to the 1930 season. Now, he was an iron horse, so he was just a dominant pitcher. He spent a lot of his career in Philadelphia as a Philly, but he bounced around a little bit as well. So the second reference, pitching again in Washington, basically, so Ronald Reagan had actually portrayed him in a movie called The Winning Team in 1952. And at this point, when the song was written in 1981, Ronald Reagan had just been elected. So thus, he's pitching again in Washington. Ronald Reagan is back in Washington. He portrayed Grover Cleveland Alexander. So now we get to the end here, and he goes, I'm talking baseball, like Reggie Quisenberry. So Reggie is, of course, Reggie Jackson, Hall of Famer, 14-time All-Star outfielder. He played from 1967 to 1987. He led the American League in home runs 4 times, won the World Series 5 times, the AL MVP award 1 time, and both the Athletics and the Yankees have retired his number. Of course, he's Mr. October. Quisenberry was Dan Quisenberry, a 3-time All-Star relief pitcher. He played from 1979 to 1990, and he led the American League in saves 5 times. Now, he's known for rarely, if ever, walking batters. Talkin Baseball, Carew and Gaylord Perry. Carew is, of course, Rod Carew, Hall of Famer, 18-time All-Star infielder. He played from 1967 to 1985. He was the AL batting champion 7 times, and his number is actually retired by both Minnesota and the Los Angeles Angels. We discussed him in the history of the Minnesota Twins video, so I don't want to go too much detail on him. Gaylord Perry is a Hall of Famer. He was a 5-time All-Star pitcher. He played from 1962 to 1983, and he won the Cy Young in both the National League and the American League. Now, he had a reputation as a player who would doctor baseballs, but he wasn't ejected from a game until the 82 season for it. So, just a little interesting fact there. You might be thinking, wow, he only made 5 All-Star games, but he's in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, he wasn't necessarily a All-Star contender year after year, but he was a good pitcher. Obviously, he's in the Hall of Fame. Now, this line here goes Seaver, Garvey, Schmidt, and Vita Blue. So Seaver is Tom Seaver, a Hall of Famer. He's a 12-time All-Star pitcher. He played from 1967 until 1986. He won the NL Cy Young 3 times. He was the NL strikeout leader 5 times. and the Mets have retired his number. He kind of bounced around a little bit towards the end of his career, but he spent the first decade of his career in New York for the Mets. Garvey is Steve Garvey, a 10-time All-Star first baseman. He played from 1969 to 1987. He was a 4-time Gold Glove winner and a 2-time NLCS MVP. So he came in clutch, during the playoffs. Schmidt is, of course, Mike Schmidt, a Hall of Famer, 12-time All-Star third baseman. He played from 1972 till 1989, exclusively for the Philadelphia Phillies. He was an 8-time NL home run leader, 6-time Silver Slugger, 10-time Gold Glove winner, and 3-time NL MVP. One of the more accomplished players, specifically towards the end of this song. And Vida Blue, he's a 6-time All-Star pitcher. He played from 1969 to 1986. He won 1 AL MVP award and 1 Cy Young, both in the same year of 71. And then he was a 3-time World Series champ. If Cooperstown is calling, it's no fluke. So basically, Cooperstown, of course, is where the Baseball Hall of Fame is located. So he's referring to these 8 players here that we just discussed. Reggie, Quisenberry, Carew, Gaylord Perry, Seaver, Garvey, Schmidt, and Vida Blue. Now, 5 of those guys, Reggie Jackson, Rod Carew, Gaylord Perry, Tom Seaver, and Mike Schmidt, are in the Hall of Fame. The other 3, Quisenberry, Garvey, and Blue, are all real candidates. Garvey's the most likely to make it. He was actually almost inducted this past year for the 2020 season, but he just missed the vote again. Quisenberry gets discussed every 5 years or so when they look to see if they missed any overlooked players. Vida Blue is the least likely to make it, but he still has a good case for the Hall of Fame. So all 3 of them could conceivably be in the Hall of Fame at some point soon. And then he goes, they'll be with Willie, Mickey, and the Duke. Willie, Mickey, and the Duke. Times 5. Says that 5 times. And then the last 2 verses, he says, say hey, reference to the Say Hey Kid, Willie Mays. But yeah, that is Talkin Baseball by Terry Cashman. Filled with baseball references. Again, it's a song I've always wanted to do. It's something I've always wanted to do. It's the only time you're going to see us do a song here for the most part. Chock full of baseball references. I learned a lot doing this, and it's just pretty dang cool, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like it, let me know. I'll see if there's any more, older songs we can kind of dissect. I don't think there's really going to be. But, yeah, I hope you guys had a great day. I hope you guys enjoy the video here. Have a good one.